The rain isn't falling, it's drilling holes in the morning. Clear umbrellas bob like jellyfish under courthouse lights. The metal door yawns. Marshals first, then her, then him. Wrists together, shoes slipping. A chain whispers over the wet stone and snaps my attention to a single sound, the first click of the cuffs. I don't move. I hold the trust deed at chest height, plastic sleeve beaded with water, seal catching a hard slice of gray. The paper has weight. It leans on my palm like a tool, not a prop. I breathe once, slow, square, and the lens glass gives me my own reflection back. Tired eyes, steady hands, a man who taped the sleeve last night so no drop could creep in. They try for the side door. Marshals pivot, the route closes. Through the glass, cameras flare. White scars of light pulsing off the seal. I keep the page level. My daughter's name is in the header. Her future is in the footer. Everything between is why I'm standing in this weather instead of hiding at home. She sees me. The aunt who swore, "Keep it in the family," mouths a word without voice. The husband tilts toward the hallway, instinct pulling him toward a shredder that isn't here to save him. A marshal's palm lifts. He freezes. The lobby smells like toner and wet wool. I count 1 through 5, like I'm steadying a ladder on a windy day. The DA slides past, gives me one clean nod. That's all, no speeches. The nod reads like a stamped page. Done. I lift the deed an inch higher and speak for the record, the way I spoke inside. I'm not here for payback. I'm here so no kid ever gets cleaned out like mine. A mic is held up under an umbrella. The red light pulses. I don't blink. Water needles the sleeve. The seal keeps shining. Somewhere, a siren combs the street and fades. The city holds its breath. A reporter calls over the rain, "How'd you prove the signatures were fake?" If you've ever watched someone wear the word family like a mask while they reach into a child's pocket, don't scroll. Subscribe, drop your story below, and watch the next minute, where the ink stalls and the lie shows its hand. I'm Daniel Rivera, 44, Local 3 out of Queens, widower, 1 kid, Ava, 15. Her backpack sits by the door with the little frayed ribbon she won at field day. The radiator hisses like it's steaming secrets. Rain needles the kitchen window. Our building has that old house smell after a storm, paint, iron, and yesterday's coffee. I rinse a mug and set it upside down on the rack. Habit. I check the stove knobs. Habit. I fold the dish towel clean in thirds. Habit. The things that hold a place together aren't loud. They're small and constant, like paying the light bill the same day the envelope hits the table, like labeling a folder when everyone else says, "We'll figure it out." The Local 3 hard hat rides the chair back where it always does. I give it the exact look I give a panel before closing it. No cracks. I lay out my multimeter, tape, insulated drivers, and the stubby pencil that fits in my sleeve pocket. The pencil's chewed a little on one end. Long nights on service calls can take a toll. The cat from 3B yowls in the hallway. I check my watch. Ava's alarm will go off in 10. I pull the manila folder with "Trust Ava" in block letters. I wrote it in thick marker so I could find it even when I'm half asleep. The corners are rounded from use. Inside are copies of the deed, the trust schedule, the death cert, and a list of questions I typed with the same care I would wire a main. I don't shuffle anything. I stack it all square and let it sit for a second. Paper gathers its own kind of strength when it's ordered. The rain taps faster. Beat, beat, rush. I crack the window for air and the city leans in, tires on wet asphalt. A bus brakes sigh. Someone's radio 2 floors down, muffled and bright. I put a note on the counter. Oatmeal in the pot, banana in the bowl, umbrella by the coat rack. Text when you get to school. Proud of you. D. I don't write love. I don't have to. It's in the list. I pocket my keys and feel the weight I know by heart. One for the door, one for the mailbox, one for the storage cage, and one blank tag I haven't labeled yet. That one is for later. I don't think about later now. I think about the right work. the proper order, the right pace. I add a 10 to Ava's Metro card and tuck it in the tray with her student ID. Rain shivers the window again. The radiator knocks. The clock over the stove gives a soft step like it's clearing its throat. On the landing, I lock the door and test the knob. Once forward, once back. The hallway smells like wet umbrellas and pine sol. I listen for her bedroom floor creak, the one board that always talks, but she's still out cold. She sleeps hard when it rains. I leave the door light on. It throws a warm line across the mat so she won't stub her toe when she drifts to the kitchen. Down the stairs, I shoulder my bag, fold her tight to my chest. The lobby glass is fogged from the draft. I push through and the morning lies on me, cold and clean. Queens hum when it rains. The bodega guy on the corner pops the steel gate with a roll and a grunt. I raise 2 fingers. He nods back. He knows my order. Coffee with a lid that never quite fits, napkin tucked under the seam. He stamps it, hands it over. I set it on the folder for half a second, and it leaves a brown ring that dries like a watermark. I don't wipe it. I let it sit. A mark that says we showed up. At the station, the Omni reader gives me that little beep and the gate slides. I make the platform just as the 7 roars in, lights tunneling the mist. The car smells like wet wool, sneakers, and someone's bagels. A kid with a violin case leans into his hood. A nurse nods off, badge clipped upside down. I stand and brace, knees loose, one hand on the pole, the other pinning the folder flat so corners don't curl. I watch our stop names pass. 40th, 33rd, Queensboro, each one a metered breath. I work because working keeps a roof up and a mind clear. I check the load because checking keeps circuits from scorching. I write things down because writing keeps people honest. In a city this loud, quiet care is how you carry a kid from one side of grief to the other. You make breakfast. You fix the outlet no one else sees. You keep the paper dry. When the train climbs toward daylight, the rain brightens to a silver wash over the tracks. I look at the blank key tag in my pocket and the black block letters on the folder. I don't think about the cuffs or the cameras. Not yet. I think about the panel I'm scheduled to finish on the 36th, the call I owe the lender, and the copy I'll make before lunch so the originals never leave my sight. The city swims by in puddle colors. I breathe with it, in for 4, out for 4. The multimeter taps my hip as the car sways. My stop. Doors slide. I step out, keep the folder under the jacket, and take the stairs 2 at a time. A truck splashes. I feel the cold in my socks and smile anyway. The day is long. Good. Long means time to do it right. I tuck the brown ringed folder closer to my chest and walk into the rain. The caller ID says Midtown Lending. I duck under an awning on 36th and hold the folder tight under my jacket. Rain needles the glass above me and runs in sheets down the side of a vending machine that ate somebody's dollar. I answer. Daniel Rivera speaking. A pause. Keyboard clatter. The voice is polite, neutral, too smooth for a morning like this. Mr. Rivera, we're reviewing your refinance file. Quick verification. The Brownsville lot is held in the Ava Rivera Trust. Our title search shows it was sold last year. We also see a secured loan recorded a few months later with a signature from your daughter. Does that match your understanding? My jaw sets. I press my tongue to the roof of my mouth so I don't say the first thing that flashes through me. The rain hits harder on the plexi and turns the city into a gray aquarium. I keep my voice steady. No, the trust hasn't sold anything. My daughter did not sign any loan. Read me your source. More typing. Pulaski Title recorded the deed transfer. Buyer is a holding company. The loan is through Metro Meridian Credit. We have a digital signature for Ava, which includes a date and timestamp. The refinance cannot proceed until we reconcile this. I am sorry. I put the coffee in the newspaper box. It leaves another brown ring on a flyer for a band that broke up last year. I pull the folder from under my jacket and set it on a dry strip of metal. The cardboard sucks a little moisture and still stays flat. I click a cheap pen and start a list. Spell the buyer. I want the LLC name, the file number, and the deed book and page. Please provide the HUD-1 or any other closing statement you can cite. On the loan, I want the note number, the servicer, and the DocuSign envelope ID if that's what you used. A breath on the other end. The tone changes. Respect creeps in when you talk like paper. Understood. Buyer listed as New Shoreline Holdings LLC. Deed recorded book 58491, page 217. Closing statement reference is attached to the recording. Loan note ends in 0412, serviced by Metro Meridian. We have an e-signature certificate for Ava Rivera. It shows an IP address, device type, and timestamps. There is also a notary attestation. I look at the rain. I see the funeral, the casseroles, the soft promises. I see the ribbon on my kid's backpack. My mouth feels like metal. I write the numbers cleanly using block letters with no shakes. The back of my pen taps the folder once. Email me every supporting document you just referenced. Do not move my refinance file. Flag it for fraud review. I am the trustee. The trust never authorized this sale. My daughter never signed that note. I want your department head to be copied on this. Spell the name. He spells. I repeat it back. He keeps up. We've moved beyond the point where anyone thinks this is just a minor office error. For your awareness, he says, voice smaller now, if this proves fraudulent, we'll issue a suspicious activity report to the appropriate agencies. I do need to advise you that we cannot halt a previous lender's processes. We can only update our own file. That's enough for this minute, I say. Send me the docs. I'll handle the rest. A truck hits a pothole and throws rain across my boots. I tuck my chin into my collar and listen to the silence that follows a sinister truth. It comes like a power cut. First there is hum, then there is nothing. Your ears reach for the old sound and don't find it. That's when you decide who you are. I hang up and the city snaps back. Steam, brakes, someone cursing in Spanish at a cab that stopped short. I take the folder under my jacket again and hold it to my chest with both hands, not to keep it dry, to keep it near the beat of my body so I don't forget what it's for. I think of Ava's signature, the way her capital A slopes is clean and fast because she hates wasting time on letters that don't matter to the grade. The way she dots her I is like throwing a tiny stone into a lake. She never pauses after the V, she never hesitates on the R. I picture a fake hand stopping where she would flow. I can see the tremor already. I can hear it on the phone, inside that pretty word attestation. Pretty words are where the rot hides. I breathe once, then I call my foreman. I'm taking lunch early and might push the panel to tomorrow. We have a paperwork fire. Everything else stays hot and labeled. You'll get pictures. Copy, he says. No questions. He knows I don't take days for nothing. I open my notes app and start a second list. Pulaski title, Metro Meridian Fraud Unit, Notary Journal Request, Envelope Certificate, IP address, device fingerprint, time zone. The power bill was at their office the day the signature was received. Server logs, Carmen. The rain gets louder against the glass. It drills like it did on the courthouse steps. I step out from the awning and let it soak my jacket. The cold brings everything into focus. I've given up hoping someone will explain this nicely. I am done giving the benefit of the doubt to people who spent my kid's future and then wrote her name like a mask. I tuck the folder tight, look east toward the river, and start walking. The city makes a lane when you move, like you know where you're going. The cruelty is confirmed. Good. Now it gets simple. The 7 takes me east first because that's the train in front of me. Omni beeps, gate swings. I stand near the door with the folder flat against my ribs, jacket pitched over it like a roof. The car rocks. Windows are a gray wash that makes everyone look like they're underwater. A little kid counts the station lights out loud. I count on him in my head and let it steady my hands. At Queensboro Plaza, I switch to the E. The platform smells like wet concrete and hot brakes. A violin thread floats from somewhere down the tunnel and gets cut by the wind. I adjust my grip. 2 fingers on the spine of the folder, thumb hooked on the corner of the plastic sleeve so it won't slide. I'm not letting a single-page fan loose today. 2 stops later, I surface into air that tastes like pennies. The corner print shop buzzes with tired machines and a bell that rings a half-second late. The guy behind the counter looks up, nods at the folder, and says nothing. Good. I unzip the inner pouch and lay out what speaks best. State ID, union card, surrogate's letters, and the trust schedule with the clean black lines that say who owns what and why. Need front and back on the IDs, clean edges, I say. No skew. Lighter pass so the hologram doesn't flare. He knows his work. He wipes the glass, sets the ID just so, lowers the lid like he's closing an eyelid. The copier warms with a low animal hum. Light bar drags across the glass. I watch for any glare and ask for one more at a different angle, just in case. I don't mind paying for 2 if one saves me 5 minutes later. While the machine spits the sheets into the tray, I take out a waterproof sleeve, new, stiff, that fresh plastic smell that says nobody's bent it yet. I slide in the original deed, then the original trust document behind it, facing opposite ways so the seals don't rub. The sleeve closes with a press and a zip click I feel in my teeth. Good. Weatherproofed, handproofed. The clerk brings the copies over, edges square, contrast right. I check dates and middle initials, tap each corner against the counter to lock them even, then feed them into the secondary binder, the one that can leave my hands. The originals stay sealed and ride with me. That's the rule. Next stop is the locksmith 2 doors down, a small place with a pegboard of blanks that shine like fish scales. 1 key, I say, lifting the single brass blank I've carried since this began. Cut it to match this. I'm passing over the house key for the storage cage at the facility, which I haven't rented yet, but will. He lines them up under the grinder. Sparks spit, quick and neat. The smell is a memory. Summer jobs, sharpened steel, the world made to fit the right lock. He hands me the fresh key. It's warm when it hits my palm. I thread it onto a plain ring with the others, door, mailbox, storage, and this new one. My thumb finds the empty key tag I bought last week on a hunch, white insert, clear shell. I snap it open, hold the pen over the space, and stop. Not yet. You don't write a label until the lock is in your hand. Superstition or common sense, I don't argue with either when a kid's future is tied to it. I click the tag closed again and let it dangle, a promise that hasn't met its door. Back outside, the rain has eased to a steady drizzle. I tuck the ring into my front pocket where keys don't punch holes in the lining, then slide the sealed sleeve deep into my jacket, inside left, where my body heat can keep the plastic from fogging. The copies are stored in the fold-out binder with a rubber band and a paper clip, set sideways to prevent catching. I check my watch, plenty of days left. I choose a route that keeps me under awnings and scaffolds, and walk with purpose that makes people part without thinking about it. The sleeve taps my chest with each step, quiet and firm like a metronome. Keys weigh balanced, no clatter, just presence. At the corner, I pause under a deli awning and do the inventory by touch. Originals sealed, copies squared, ID sets, union card, trust letters, fresh key on ring with blank tag, cash for the clerk who doesn't take cards, and the note in my phone that spells out the ass for the next office. The rain whispers on the tarp overhead. Someone shakes an umbrella and the drops drum quickly, then settle. There's nothing dramatic about this part. No speeches, no eyes meeting across a courtroom. Just paper in order, keys ready, 1 foot after the other. You wire a place so it won't burn when the load comes. You do this so that when someone tries to lie about what belongs to a kid, truth has a handle you can actually grab. I pull the sleeve an inch from my jacket and recheck the seal, still tight. I slide it back in and head for the subway. The E-train is downtown now. DA's office next. 1 door at a time. The tag will get its name when the lock is ours. Carmen works out of a small room in Long Island City with a view of a brick wall and a sliver of sky that holds rain like a bowl. Her door buzzes once when I press. Inside, the place sounds like a beehive. Spreadsheets hum from two monitors. A little printer breathes. There is a plant on the sill that refuses to die. She looks at the sleeve under my jacket, then at me. No small talk. You brought originals? I nod and set the waterproof down on a clean blotter. Deed, trust schedule, letters from surrogates, emails too. I put the binder of copies next to it. A Midtown lender just told me the Brownsville lot is gone and there's a loan with my kid's name on it. She slides a coaster across the desk. I put my coffee on it without thinking. She wipes her hands, then opens the sleeve with careful thumbs. Okay, walk me from the start. I tell her about the funeral with too many casseroles, my post-op days when I let the aunt talk over me because I was on meds and grief makes you soft, the promise to keep it in the family, the neat piles of mail that I didn't open fast enough. The refinance call came in this morning. I keep it clean, dates, names, no color. The radiator hisses at home, the Omni tap, the way I wrote Trust Ava in block letters so I could see it in a mess. Carmen listens and types. She has the calm of an electrician tracing a short. Good, she says. You kept the originals dry. We'll scan them at high DPI. No filters. I want the seals to show their scratches. She takes a sticky note and writes a short list in a tight hand. Pulaski title, Metro Meridian, Notary Journal, DocuSign envelope. We pull the certificate of completion. It includes the public key hash, timestamps, the IP address that clicked through, and the user agent for the device. If they use a desktop at their office, it leaves a fingerprint, font smoothing, screen size. Sometimes even the language setting. If they got cute and used a phone, we map the tower at that time. If they used a VPN, we compare the time of the signing to their power bill and router logs. People forget electric leaves a trail. I feel the room getting colder. Not fear, focus. I pass her the emails. She opens one and reads the line about beating probate. Her mouth does a small thing that looks like a wince for half a second. Then she is back to flat. We build a flow, she says. Sale proceeds into an account. From there to the husband's business. From there, maybe to a second account. We match deposits to ACH trace numbers. We line bank days to calendar days. If anything lands on a Sunday it should not, we circle it. If anything posts at 2 a.m., we circle that too. We requested the bank to provide the KYC file for the buyer. Shells have paper skin. We push a finger and it dents. She opens the trust schedule and lays it next to a pad with a 4-column grid. Asset, rightful owner, unauthorized action, counterproof. You keep your notes like this, she says. Simple. If you hand a clean grid to a DA, they read it on an elevator and nod before the door opens. I need the notary's journal, I say. I want to see who stood in front of them, what ID they claimed, and whether the seal is round or rectangular. I want the stamp expiration. If it expired, we're already done. Carmen nods. Good instincts. We also look for pressure on the page. A real signature digs, a fake one floats. If we receive a flat scan, we request that the original lender provide the wet copy or the tablet logs from their signing service. Dwell time on each page matters. Your kid signs school forms in seconds. A forger stalls. She opens an app and starts a timeline. The day the aunt took the envelope at the funeral. The day I started physical therapy. Date stamps on each email the aunt sent about keeping it safe. Date of the sale recording. Date of the loan. Patterns talk, she says. We listen. If they were moving money to cover payroll at the business, we would see every 2-week pulse. If they were covering credit, we would see late fees hit like footprints. I slide her the Midtown call notes. She reads them once, underlines New Shoreline Holdings LLC, circles book 58491, page 217, and writes pull deed image in the margin. If we're lucky, she says, the closing included a digital packet. Those files keep XIF and PDF metadata. People think a screenshot wipes that. It doesn't. We pull the Creator app and the last save. If the aunt sent the doc from a work email, we subpoena the mail server for header paths, IP again. There is a click of the lock behind us as someone enters the outer office. Carmen glances toward the sound, then back to the page. One more thing. Your kid's signature. Can you bring me 3 legit samples, school forms, library card, anything she filled out in ink? We plot stroke order and speed. Natural hands have a rhythm. Tracing breaks that rhythm. You can see the stop on the upstroke under a loop. I know her A, I say. She hates wasting time. She never hesitates after the V. Carmen smiles without showing teeth. Then we will find the stall. If they touched your kid's trust, we'll see every fingerprint. She scans the deed. The bar of light slides. The seal blooms and goes. She saves the file with a name that reads like a chain. 2025-1022 Rivera, she Ava Trust, deed orig, scan v1.tif. No spaces, no mystery. She prints one small copy for inline reference and clips it to the grid. You leave the originals with me? She asks. I shake my head. They don't leave my hands. I'll sit. Good, she says. Then we move faster. She taps a pen on the desk twice. Call your storage facility and reserve a locker close to home. Get a new lock. Please take a photo of the key code on the packaging before you toss it. We note it. That is where these will sleep between offices. Today they stay here until I finish the first pass. Then you walk them to the DA. I feel the keys in my pocket touch each other. The blank tag waits for its name. Outside, the rain softens on the window like someone drumming their fingers on a table. Carmen starts the pulls. Title portal, bank portal, a request to Metro Meridian that reads like a checklist with teeth. I sit with my hands flat and let the quiet math of it settle. In this room, there is no shouting, no family speeches, no perfume trying to cover the smell of fear. There is only the shape of what happened and the proof that will hold in daylight. Carmen zooms in on a pixel corner of a signature. The screen shows a broken curve where a smooth line should live. She doesn't look at me when she says it. She says it at work. We're going to nail this down. I walk past surrogate's court because the body remembers the route even when the mind doesn't want it. The steps are slick with rain. The bronze handrail is cold. Paper notices are visible in the glass bow where the tape loosens. The revolving door turns slowly from wet shoes and heavy coats. I don't go in. I keep moving along the iron fence where the hedges hold beads of water like they're counting. The city sounds different on this block. Quieter, like people swallow their voices before they pass the entrance. My reflection rides the panes. The sleeve under my jacket shows as a pale rectangle, steady against my ribs. I breathe and look without staring. This place once felt like a chapel to me. Today it seems like a machine. Intake, process, stamp, archive. That's fine. Machines have rules. Rules leave tracks. The rain brings back the funeral before I ask it to. Paper plates, stiff ham, and foil pans lined up on our counter. Neighbors I didn't know pressed my shoulder, saying words they hoped would help. The aunt with a polished voice and a grip that lasted a beat too long. We'll keep it in the family, she said. Eyes shiny like that made it sacred. I wanted to believe her. I nodded, careful not to bend the stitches under the shirt that the funeral home had ironed flat. I can still feel the tug when I reach for the pen. Quick flashes strobe up one after the other. The casserole trays were stacked 3 high. The envelopes with condolence cards tucked in a basket, thick ones that felt like checks and thin ones that only held ink. I am at the kitchen table, post-op meds dulling the corners of the room. The aunt was laying papers in a neat fan, like a dealer saying the correct phrases: trust, executor, guardian. Just sign where I flagged, she said, small sticky notes marching down the edges. I didn't read line by line. I read what she pointed at while the pain shifted between my ribs and my back like a bad tenant. I told myself I'd audit it later. Later is when people disappear things. A bus brakes at the light and hisses. I ride the sound until it fades. I remember her voice again. Family as a shield, family as a rope. In the family room, she kept the door key. You need time to heal, she said. Let me take the paperweight. I let her, thinking I could lift it back whenever I wanted. You don't see the swap until the counter is empty. I keep walking. I pass the small coffee stand that opens only on rainy days. The guy inside lifts a chin. I shake my head. I'm holding on to this brown ring from earlier like a knot, proof I didn't imagine the morning. Down the block, a woman wipes a stroller seat with the edge of her sleeve while her kid kicks water in patterns on the sidewalk. I'm slow to let them pass. The umbrella bumps my shoulder and slides away. I picture the moment I could turn around and push through the doors. I can see the security tray, the empty pockets, the form that asks for a purpose. I could ask a clerk to pull the letters and let me see their edges under courthouse light. I could look for fingerprints in the dust. I could ask someone to walk me through the steps using soft language and a sigh that says, "These things happen." The temptation to confront now flashes like a hazard light. It would feel suitable for 5 minutes. Then it would cost me an hour I need for real work. So I walk, past the side entrance where messengers balance tubes under their arms, past a couple arguing so quietly you can see their throats move but not hear a single word, past the stone that bears the building name, much like a stamped label on a file. The rain threads my cuffs and cools the heat in my hands. I talk to myself the way I speak to a live panel. Slow, calm, no rush. You trusted once, I say in my head. You don't do that again. You check, you log, you ground the line before you touch it. The keys in my pocket answer with a small press against my thigh. The blank tag rests cool, waiting for the day it will take a name. Not yet. I come up on the corner where the wind turns and brings the courthouse smell with it. Ink, wool, wet docket paper, sweat from 100 coats. I let the scent pass through me. I picture Ava's A drawn fast and clean the way she always does it. I picture the false hand that stalled and wobbled where she would flow. The anger surfaces like a bubble, breaks, and the surface goes flat again. I sink it, repress it. Anger is loud and heavy. It breaks the fine work. Today needs fine work. Across the street, a courier jogs for the light, tube slipping against his palm, and I see the whole path mapped in the glass. Carmen's grid, title pulls, the envelope certificate, the IP that doesn't match the story they'll tell when they find their voices. The DA's office is 3 stops away, the clean moment where a clerk stamps a copy and hands it back without looking up, because truth is just another job when you do it every day. I tuck my chin into my collar and angle toward the subway. The sleeve creaks a little under my jacket. I check the zip by feel, still tight. Good. The courthouse passes behind me. The old truss sits in the rear view. The new doubt is positioned up front where I can watch it. Resolve takes the wheel. I step off the curb into the crosswalk while the walk signal blinks, and I let the city carry me toward the next door. Carmen turns her left monitor toward me. The screen is a clean grid, no noise, rows that breathe. At the top, Brownsville, trust asset. Under it, a line of dates, a buyer's name, and numbers that don't flinch. Start here, she says. Pulaski's image of the recorded deed. She opens the scan. The page carries the courthouse gray and the smudged thumbprint of a clerk who didn't care that day. Buyer, New Shoreline Holdings LLC. Registered agent, a mailbox that looks like a door but isn't. Carmen flicks to a window with the state's entity lookup. The LLC was formed 2 weeks before the sale. The address ties back to a virtual office on a floor with 36 names and 1 receptionist. Shell, she says like she's checking voltage and hearing the right hum. Not illegal by itself, but when it pairs with this, she clicks. A bank statement lands on the screen, bright and plain. Incoming wire on a Tuesday for the full sale amount minus costs. Same day outgoing wire to an account ending in 1134. The name on that account, the husband's business. The one with a logo that looks confident until you count the unpaid invoices. Give it an hour, Carmen says, scrolling. There you go. Thursday, the business pays payroll. Friday, they clear a supplier. Monday, credit card minimums. Pulse, 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 not an investment. Patchwork. She moves to the following stack. Now your kid's signature. A PDF opens. It tries to look official, a blue ribbon icon, a banner that says completed. Carmen right-clicks and pulls up document properties. A panel slides in. Producer, DocuSign, modified, 02:17 a.m. Eastern, she goes deeper, certificate of completion. The list resembles old punch cards turned into light. IP address, user agent, time spent on each page. See this? She points. Page 1, 45 seconds. Page 2, 8 seconds. Signature page, 2 minutes, 14 seconds. She glances at me. Your daughter, how long would she sit on a single signature screen? 10 seconds, I say. Maybe 5. She signs like she hates the letter shapes. Carmen nods. Exactly. 2 minutes means someone is toggling, matching a style, tracing letters against a template, or hesitating. Now the IP. She copies it into a small tool and resolves it. The number blooms into a familiar ISP and a location pin. Long Island City, 3 blocks from where the husband parks his company vans. She opens a public database and cross-references the business's static IP from an old press release where they once bragged about their upgraded network. The last 2 octets match. Her cursor doesn't shake. Mine either. We're not done, she says, almost gently. The notary. She summons the notary's page. Commission expires next spring. Good stamp. She drags over a zoom window and finds a shadow on the lower right where the seal meets the page. This is off. It's a flattened overlay. If the notary used a tablet stamp, we should see consistent alpha across the banner. Instead, we get this tiny halo. They composited it. Sloppy. She lines up email headers next. The aunt wrote to someone with the subject, "Probate done, don't worry," and forwarded an attachment with the trust schedule cropped so the beneficiary line is conveniently out of frame. The email hops through a server that belongs to the husband's office domain. Carmen expands the header until it's all routing numbers and time zones. This hop here, she says, tapping. It left their work mail at 11:19 p.m. after hours. We request the server logs for that night, and we'll see who sat at which computer. She opens one more thing. A little text file with 2 sentences pulled from an email thread they never meant to hand to a lender. We beat probate, LOL. He'll never untangle this. The line sits there like a hair trapped under glass. I don't blink. I keep my eyes on the screen and feel the weight of the sleeve against my ribs like a hand on a shoulder that says, stay steady. This isn't a slip. It's a sequence. Form the shell. Move the asset. Funnel the cash. Use the same office IP to fake the girl's name, boast about it from the same domain. Every step is a footprint on damp concrete. It dries if you wait. We're not waiting. Carmen brings up a simple flowchart. Square for the trust, arrow to the closing account, arrow to husband's business, smaller arrows to payroll, credit, and supplier. Then a broken red line back to nothing where there should be a beneficiary ledger. She prints it, date stamps the bottom, and slides it to the side. This is the first pass, it already sings. I think of the brown coffee ring on my folder and decide to keep it forever. A mark from the minute the story turned. I think of the blank key tag waiting for a name. It will get one, not yet, soon. Carmen opens a new note to the assistant DA. Clean bullets. Shell form 2 weeks pre-sale. Sale proceeds are deposited into the business account the same day. Loan e-sign tied to office IP. Notary seal inconsistent. Emails claiming to beat probate. She adds, request preservation of email server logs and router DHCP tables for the week of the signing. Then she turns the monitor back to herself and looks at me. This is not grief math, she says. This is numbers. They moved what belonged to a kid and used your last name as camouflage. We don't argue with it. We show it. In the window, a break in the clouds wipes a white streak across the brick wall like chalk. The room feels a degree warmer, not because the heat kicked on, because the fog in my head did what fog does when the sun shows, thinned, then left. I gather the binder of copies. I touch the sealed originals to make sure the zip is still closed. The keys settle in my pocket with a small weight that reads as a promise. I don't feel hurt anymore. Hurt is a bruise. It sits and throbs. This is not that. This is a switch that is turned on. Next stop is the DA, I say. Carmen's already emailing. They'll take you. Bring your grid. Bring your calm. We'll trail with the envelope certificate and the IP match. If they touched your kid's trust, they stamped every move. We're just reading it out loud. I stand. The sleeve rides inside my jacket again, on the left side, near the heart. I thank her, not with a speech, but with a nod that means I'll be back with whatever else she needs. In the hall, the building smells like dust and toner. On the stairs, I pass a courier with a tube under his arm. He skips a step. I don't. My pace is even. I'm the guy who labels panel breakers so clearly that the next tech can work in the dark without guessing. The pattern is visible now. We'll wire the rest. Then we'll turn it on and let the light show everything they tried to keep behind the word family. Downtown Brooklyn smells like paper, suit leather, and something oily from the delivery elevator. We step out of the elevator and into a small conference room whose only window looks over a parking lot and a billboard. The assistant DA sits at the head of the table with a stamped envelope in front of her and a nameplate that reads, A. Morales, Special Victims, Financial Crimes. Carmen hands the binder across like a technician sliding a clear schematic across a bench. The binder opens like a case. Copies first, pulled tight, labeled, each with a footer that reads the file code and the date. Then the originals in their waterproof sleeve, zipped shut so nothing can weasel in. I lay the sleeve down and feel the table hum through the laminate when someone sets a stack of forms down across from it. The DA doesn't smile. She watches the grid Carmen made and the screenshots with the same look a foreman gives a damaged panel. Orderly, not surprised, already thinking steps. To be clear, Assistant DA Morales says, voice dry as a stamped service envelope, we'll treat this as potential wire fraud, forgery, and tax issues. We'll coordinate with IRS criminal investigation on the tax side. I want everything preserved, no notifications to the suspects. We keep this quiet until we move. Her words fall into the binder like bullets hitting paper. Carmen nods and slides an index card across with specific asks. Preservation letters to Pulaski Title, Metro Meridian Fraud Unit, New Shoreline Holdings' registered agent, the husband's business bank, and the husband's merchant processor. We'll push for emergency preservation for email servers and router DHCP tables for the week of the signing, she says, and the DocuSign envelope certificate, preserve the certificate of completion and the audit trail. If there was a local machine used, we'll need the DHCP logs and any workstation inventory. A man in a dark suit whom I hadn't noticed stands in the doorway and introduces himself. An IRS liaison, Investigator Grant, CI. He thumbs a thin folder, flips it, and points at a printout, the wire trails. Large incoming on the sale date, he says. Full proceeds wired to an account controlled by the husband's company. We're seeing 1099 mismatches on the company tax returns. Payments that should be expenses are being mischaracterized. We need bank subpoenas and we need them stamped. He flips to another page. And these inter-account transfers line up with payments to vendor accounts that don't have receipts. That's how you move money out without a clean paper trail. He taps the line with his pen like a conductor. The room rearranges itself into motion. The DA thumbs a stamp and it thunks across a pad. Each subpoena lands on the table with an authoritative thump that sounds like a gavel in miniature. Preservation letters print. One by one, they're folded, initialed, and sealed. There is a low mechanical music, a stamp, another stamp. The sound keeps time with my heartbeat, and I feel oddly steady. Record a statement, Morales says, turning to me. We need a clean, on-the-record account of how you discovered this and what you did with the originals. I sit in the chair that fits my shoulders and look at the recorder on the table. The red light is off. I clear my throat, not for drama, but to align the words. I say my name. I tell them the day the refinance call came in, who I spoke to, the exact words the lender used about the sale and the loan. I read aloud the action items I wrote at the printer: Pulaski Title, Metro Meridian, and the Notary Journal. I describe how I kept the originals sealed, who I entrusted them to, and why I trusted Carmen to run the first pass. My voice is measured, clean, no flourishes. I say dates, times, file numbers, and email subjects. I read the exact line where the aunt wrote, "We beat probate." I don't raise my voice when I say it. I don't need to. The recorder holds my words like a mirror. Morales nods and makes a notation with a stamped pen. Investigator Grant slides over copies of the wire traces and marks amounts with a blue highlighter. Carmen passes him the IP resolve screenshots and the DocuSign audit trail. He taps the IP and barks low. Same subnet as the husband's office router. That's our in. She lays out the operational plan: quiet seizures, preservation letters, subpoenas for banks and payment processors with gag provisions where possible. A sneak and secure method to make sure nothing gets destroyed while the legal seals are being applied. The DA explains an execution window for potential seizures and search warrants, coordinate with local marshals, time to coincide with the bank's ledger close, and when the office would be most off guard. No heads up, she says. Coverage minimized. We don't want shredder hands in play. We map it all out in shorthand on a legal pad. The DA draws a dotted line from New Shoreline Holdings to the husband's account and another dotted line to the husband's merchant processor. She circles the Notary Journal and underlines server logs. She writes "seized servers" in block letters and then draws a box around them. I'll request emergency subpoenas and work with the U.S. Attorney's Office for federal wire fraud charges if the evidence supports it, Morales adds. The phrase U.S. Attorney sits like a drumbeat. Federal gets you the heavy machinery: asset restraint, immediate seizure, forfeiture pathways. That word turns the room's temperature up half a degree. The stakes jump. Carmen prints a list of the precise documents to send with each preservation letter: titles, closing statements, ACH trace numbers, merchant receipts, payroll ledgers, and the LLC formation file. She stamps the document request with preservation, immediate, and slides it to me. Sign here as the victim witness, she says. I sign with the same careful stroke I use to sign parts lists at the warehouse. My hand doesn't tremble. Meanwhile, the liaison calls the bank control room and sets up an urgent trace. He schedules a meeting with Metro Meridian's fraud unit under the cover of a compliance inquiry. The DA's team drafts affidavits. They plan to seek a seizure warrant for the husband's office servers and an order to freeze assets tied to the LLC. They discuss gag language and the threshold for unsealing the complaint. The words are heavy: probable cause, predicate acts, wire transfer, forgery, tax evasion. They sound precise and inexorable. At one point, Morales looks at me, and for the first time in the morning, the look softens. You did everything right, keeping the originals and calling us. People think family handles these things. Too often, the first thing you lose is a piece of paper, and the last thing you lose is an argument in court. We'll make sure you don't lose both. The DA forwards the preservation letter to Pulaski Title and requests that Carmen email the DocuSign preservation request, copying the DA's inbox. Carmen completes the task with 2 clicks and forwards the confirmation. The email return receipts ping like small beacons. Each confirmation is a knot tied. Each knot keeps the lie from knitting back together. An investigator from the marshal's office arrives and goes over entry plans for the office: time, cover, point of entry, and containment of digital assets. They discuss disabling network access to prevent remote wipes. No one laughs. They measure the gap between the husband's primetime business hours and when his office manager leaves for the day. The plan lands on a window 4 days from now at 09 Cierfond, when most of the staff is arriving and the husband is out doing deliveries, according to a schedule they secured from a vendor. The DA puts a star next to the date. We plan quiet seizures first, preservation steps to lock ledgers, follow the money, then seize the machines when the order is signed. We coordinate with the IRS CI to attach a tax lien review to the asset freeze, ensuring that cash can't be siphoned into another shell before the papers are filed. When the marshals ask about the husband, Morales says flatly, "If he resists or reaches for a shredder, we'll secure the room and document every motion. Any attempt to destroy evidence will be an additional charge." The marshal nods once. The sound is like a tool being set down. Before I leave, Morales stamps another form. The stamp is loud, thunk, and it closes the circle for me. She hands me a copy of the preservation letters and the stamped subpoenas and says, "Keep originals secure, don't show them to anyone else. We'll handle service where appropriate. Keep your phone on and avoid discussing specifics. If anyone approaches you from their side, send us the message and don't engage." I fold the copies and slide them into the waterproof sleeve. The minor blank key tag rubs against the plastic, and the thought of naming it flickers at the edge of my mind. Not yet. We have to lock the barn before we name the stall. As I walk out of the DA's building, the city feels like a fuse, short, carefully measured. I can hear the stamp thumps in my head. Preservation letters are already en route. The bank is on notice. The title company has an email in its inbox that says, "Preserve, Brownsville lot, immediate." The DocuSign portal shows our request. Carmen is already compiling the following spreadsheet to chart exactly where every dollar landed. Outside, the rain has paused as if listening. I check my phone. No calls yet from their camp. That's good. If they get wind, they'll start a different kind of math. Moving money, replacing cards, creating new shells. We can't let that happen. We have to box the flow. I thumb the new key in my pocket and feel the ring. The sleeve is warm against my chest, where I carried it into the DA's office. The plan is in motion. The trap is set, quietly and legally, with stamps, subpoenas, and federal teeth if needed. In a few days, someone will open a door they thought was private and find marshals, servers bagged, and papers that say who they actually stole from. For now, we watch. We wait. We move only where the law lets us move, and we do so hard enough to make every false line revealed. The city rolls on around me, cabs, a soda truck, a woman with grocery bags, and somewhere a shredder hums in ignorance. Not for long. Long Island City, 0902. Glass door, brushed steel handle, vinyl logo peeling at the corner. I see my reflection before I see the room. Jacket zipped, sleeve flat against my ribs, keys quiet in my pocket. The lobby smells like printer toner and cheap citrus cleaner. Inside, a receptionist looks up, then past me, eyes widening at the blue windbreakers stepping through. Marshals first. One goes straight to the router rack, another to the hallway. "Federal order," a voice says, calm as a clock. The door to the back clicks open. Lock clicks like a metronome. A third marshal holds the entrance while two more fan right. The room compresses and stretches at once like steel heating. She appears from a side office, the aunt, with a scarf looped twice like armor. Her mouth opens and shapes the word she always reaches for. Family. She doesn't finish it. The marshal's palm lifts once. Stop. She stops. Behind her, the husband rises too fast from a desk that looks organized until you lay a straight edge on it. He moves for a wheeled shredder bin tucked beside the copier. His hand is on his lip when a marshal taps the bin with a baton and shakes his head, barely a motion. Another marshal pulls the plug. The shredder winds down with a small electric sigh like a lie giving up. I step into the reception and plant my feet on the rubber mat. The original deed is in my left hand, the trust schedule in my right, the exact papers she flashed at my kitchen table years ago while I nodded and bled through stitches. I lift them chest high, not for her, for the record. Through the glass, a photographer from the building across the alley raises a camera, flash bounces, strobe white. The receptionist recoils, not from the marshals, but from the light catching the plastic sleeve and making the seal flare like a small sun. The light dies. The room snaps back to gray. A marshal passes, voice low into a shoulder mic. "Servers bagged 1 and 2. Another voice from the hallway. 3, live capture off the switch, DHCP table copied. nylon rustles, evidence bags open with a dry gasp. A roll of tamper seals ticks off, red tails like warnings hanging from plastic. The aunt tries again, smaller. We can. She doesn't finish that either. Her eyes flick to the papers and then down to the corner of the mat where water from umbrellas has made a dark shape like a continent breaking off. I hold her gaze the way I have a live wire with insulated pliers. No shaking, no chatter. I don't speak. I don't feed the room anything it can spin. Silence is a tool. Today it cuts cleaner than any sentence I could craft. Two agents wheel out a tower server shrouded in clear plastic. A third bag, the external drives lined up like coasters on a credenza. The husband reaches toward his desk drawer with a gambler's twitch. A marshal's hand lands on the edge first, firm. The drawer opens to a passport, a petty cash envelope, and a tube of breath mints. The marshal sets each item down in a neat row and writes a number on a chain of custody form without breaking eye contact. I pivot a fraction so the deed and schedule face the door, squared, edges aligned. A long time ago, I shuffled behind this woman carrying flowers and a condolence card while she directed traffic in my kitchen. Roles flipped. She moves when they move her. They don't touch her hard. They don't have to. The room and the paperwork have already narrowed her path to one line. Cameras spark again through the glass. The receptionist's hands hover over her keyboard, waiting for an instruction that will never come. In the back, someone says, "Router down, network isolated." Another marshal, "Phones? Collected." The aunt finally looks at me full on. Her face does a fast inventory, appeal, anger, strategy, then lands on something like a plea. The word forms again, family, but even she hears how thin it sounds in a room full of stamps and barcodes. The marshal on her left nods her forward. She steps. The chain between her and her husband whispers against the tile. My memory serves me the old image, me a step behind her, a foil pan cooling my palms, heads tilted toward her assurances. Today, she passes me and sees the paper she used to wave now held steady against her. Mirrored humiliation isn't loud. It's precise. It shows you the exact angle of your own trick. A building tenant opens the hallway door, sees uniforms, reverses out. The door eases shut. A marshal lays a notice on the front counter, reads the top line aloud for the body cam, and sticks it down with blue tape. The tape makes a sound like tearing a page from a pad. Another marshal tags the shredder disabled in block letters and tilts it away from the outlet like a scolded dog. The husband tries a grin that belongs to a better day and lands on no one. He clears his throat. Nothing helpful comes out. His eyes find the trust schedule and the grin falls off like a bad sticker. Property and documents identified, a marshal recites into the mic. Subject acknowledges name, transport requested. He's not asking anyone in particular, he's marking time. The room keeps time with him. I lower the papers an inch and lay them flat on the counter's dry strip. The waterproof sleeve fogs a breath, then clears. I slide a copy forward, the grid Carmen printed with arrows, amounts, and dates. One marshal glances, nods once, folds it, slips it into an evidence pouch. The original goes back to the heart side. My thumb presses the zip. I feel it click into place. They angle the pair toward the door. The aunt tries to stand taller than the cuffs will allow. The husband's shoulders roll like he's bracing for weather. The first step they take passes within arm's reach of me. Years ago, I trailed behind with flowers. Now I let them pass in front while I hold a paper that doesn't care about anyone's stories. Outside, umbrellas gleam. A camera stutters. The glass door breathes open. As they cross the threshold, a gust lifts the scarf at the aunt's throat, and for a second it waves like a flag for the wrong side of a field. Then it drops. The marshal at the rear pauses, looks at the receptionist, and says gently, "We'll be done with your desk in a minute." She nods, eyes wet but clear. The door eases shut. The latch clicks, a slight closing sound that lands big. I take one last look at the room. Server bags labeled, Bin unplugged, notice taped, phones in a tray with numbered tags, a neat shape where a mess used to be. I don't feel triumphant. I feel alignment. Object to the rightful place, asset to the rightful owner, name to the rightful line. I turn toward the hall. The keys settle in my pocket, door, mailbox, storage, the new cut with the blank tag still empty. Not for long. I touch the ring once like knocking on wood and follow the marshals out into the bright, restless morning, the deed riding the same side as my heartbeat. Home smells like a mix of pencil shavings and oatmeal. The radiator gives a soft tick as it cools. Ava is at the table under the window, hoodie up, earbuds in, geometry book open like a tent. She's drawing neat triangles with a ruler that used to be mine. The backpack sits by the door, ribbon limp from the rain. I hang my local 3 hard hat on the chair, set the multimeter in its usual spot, and ease the waterproof sleeve out of my jacket. I don't say a word. Papers don't need a drum roll. The zip slides open with that slight, regular sound that always calms me. I lift out the stamped copies the DA handed back, ink still a little raised, and fan them on the placemat with the coffee brown ring from this morning, full circle without fanfare. Ava glances up, one earbud lowered. Our eyes meet for half a second. She reads the stamps, not my face. She nods once like we share a quiet language. The earbud goes back in, the pencil travels on. I take the keyring from my pocket and hold the new cut metal in my palm. The blank tag clicks open. I print slowly so the letters won't smudge. Ava. Trust Locker. The dash sits straight between the names, even, no dip. I snap the tag shut and thumb the edges like checking a breaker after a fix. Satisfying. Honest. I pull a slim fireproof box from the hall cabinet, set it on the table, and press the latch. Inside, originals wrapped in acid-free sleeves, a small desiccant pouch, a note that says, "Originals leave only with me." I add today's stamped copies to the front, then swap them for the originals from my jacket so daylight and hand oils stop here. The deed and trust ride down into the foam nest without a bend. The lid closes with an easy push. I turn the lock until it seats and drop the fresh key into my pocket next to the mailbox and door, a new weight joining the old ones that earned their place. The rain runs out of words. The last drops tick the kitchen window and then pause, like someone turning off a faucet 2 floors up. The light in the room goes from tin to soft. I stand there and let it spread. I make a cup of tea because coffee would push the day back into a corner, and I'm not in a corner anymore. Steam climbs the mug in a thin strand. I set it on a cork coaster this time, not the folder. The brown ring stays on the manila like a small medal. It can have its story. Mail under the door, 2 envelopes, 1 flyer. I slide them into the later tray and take out the little labeler. Trust. Ava gets a cleaner strip for the binder spine. I press it down and feel the letters through the plastic. It reads better in black on white than it did in marker. We're past the marker phase. Ava pauses her music. "You want the quiet fan on?" she asks. "Leave it," I say. "I like the room the way it is." She studies again, whisper counting angles. I sit across and sort the receipts from the day, the corner print shop ticket, the locksmith stub, a note with the time we entered the DA's office. I tuck them behind the grid Carmen printed, where they'll make sense later without me squinting. Out the window, Queen shines, puddles like coins, a pigeon sunning itself on the curb as if there wasn't a storm an hour ago. A neighbor instinctively swings a grocery bag to avoid the slick patch. Someone's TV murmurs through a wall low enough to be a heartbeat. I think of the courthouse steps, the umbrellas, the camera flash that made the seal flare. I think of the shredder unplugged, the lying phrase that lost its shape in a room full of numbered tags. I think of the slight nod from the DA and the way the marshals spoke into their mics like marking studs in drywall, measured, exact. None of that felt like victory. It felt like a place finally plumbed. I open the fireproof box again long enough to lay a photo on top of the originals. Ava at 9 at a science fair, hair everywhere, holding a ribbon she won for a circuit that lit 3 LEDs. The caption she wrote on the back in block letters, "Make it work." The lid closes, the lock turns, and the new tag on the ring tells me what's mine to keep. Ava finishes a problem, flips the page, and looks at me. "You good?" she asks. "Yeah," I say. "We're good." She smiles without showing teeth. That's my smile. She goes back to bisectors. I stand, slide the binder into the cabinet next to the manuals and warranties, and wipe the table with the dish towel folded in thirds. Habit. The towel leaves the wood a shade darker that fades as air moves. The radiator goes quiet. The room settles. Voiceover steady, the same tone I used on the record. I told the judge I'm not here to break anyone. I'm here to make sure no one ever steals a kid's future. I walk the keys to the wall hook, hang them by their new order: door, mailbox, Ava, trust locker, storage. The tags line up like a small, true sentence. At the sink, I rinse the mug and set it upside down on the rack. I check the stove knobs. I flip the hall light off and on to test the circuit and see if it's clean. The day loosens its shoulders. Then I face the camera the way I face the paper, square, not flinching. If you've seen Family used like a mask, subscribe and share your story below. Someone might need your blueprint.